Luke Rides is back, and we do have a bit of a special episode as Luke Rides is reviewing the Kawasaki ZX-6R Super Sport. It's awesome.
It's showtime!
Hello everyone at Luke Rides. This is quite a special episode. We are reviewing the Kawasaki ZX-6R. This is Kawasaki Super Sport and this is the 2024 model. The display is pretty interesting. So it's a TFT unit which is really modern, and you're going to see that a lot more with modern Kawasaki's. So you have very useful information like gear indicator to let you know what gear you're in. Obviously time as well, so you know what time of the day it is, if you need to be somewhere, how long you have on your ride before you need to head home, before you need to do whatever you need to do, which is always pretty useful. Engine temperature, which is what you would see on a race bike. Miles an hour, really useful as well that you've got a fuel gauge, so you've got a rough idea of how much fuel you have left. With the latest onboard computers from Kawasaki, this one has multiple levels of traction control, and you can set them through the TFT. So you've got rain, and then which is quite intrusive, traction control to keep you nice and stable. Then you have road, which is a little bit more forgiving, it's a little bit more relaxed. And then you have sport, where the traction control is minimum. It's only going to interfere if it really feels that you're about to lose traction, and it will cut the throttle if it thinks something is about to happen. And then power mode. So power modes is where it will decide how much power and torque that you're going to have, and you have again those different modes from rain to road to sport. Sport's the full on to 122 brake horsepower, which is pretty good. The rev counter is fairly easy to read. On a race bike like this, you're not going to really look at the rev counter, you're just going to feel what the Kawasaki race engine is doing. And then miles an hour. The screen's pretty clear, the colours are quite bright and gives you a fair bit of information. But you can tell with these modern TFTs that there's a lot going on, and with a lot going on, when you're in traffic like this, in city traffic, there's a lot to have to read pretty quickly when you look down, which is a bit annoying. The main thing is your miles an hour, because that's what you're going to be looking at. And Right now in the city, the throttle is very well behaved. The throttle is spot on by Kawasaki. Considering this one has had to go through Euro emissions and sound regulations, so you know that that race engine is being held back, the power and the torque. But also being an inline 4, pretty smooth, and Kawasaki have got it absolutely spot on, which is really good. The fueling is smooth, the fueling is spot on, the throttle is spot on. You open the throttle, she instantly responds, and the throttle is not on and off. It's actually got a nice transition to it, and you can be fairly well behaved, but this one does have the factory exhaust system. So remember that your standard ZX-6R Super Sport, the throttle is being a little bit held back. You don't know if the throttle bodies are actually opening all the way when you open the throttle up. But yeah, that's where you want to have a full system with no baffle and have the onboard computer remapped and reworked before you get the full power and torque of that awesome 636cc engine. And what's nice as well is being a Kawasaki Super Sport, you can be more well behaved in this sort of traffic because of the gearing, and that race engine is a little bit more forgiving. The balance, beautiful. The balance is absolutely spot on. It is race. You feel pretty comfortable with the balance, and she is actually quite agile. So handling, very happy. You, even on the faster, more open roads, you're absolutely, the handling is very smooth, but also really agile. This one, absolutely stunning. The Kawasaki anniversary colours for the Kawasaki Super Sports and Super Bikes looks awesome. She looks special. The lines are sport. They're Kawasaki. It is gorgeous to look at. It brings a smile to your face and looks very special. Actually, the ZX-6R Super Sport in the anniversary colours looks more expensive than it actually is from the outside if you know nothing about motorcycles, and it is just missile the way she looks. She is a junior warplane, a junior jet fighter of the road as well as the track. So really good. Also you have LED lights up front with Kawasaki and LED rear lights, and I believe the indicators are LED as well. The LED, the lights are going to be quite strong. Mirrors, this is a Super Sport, so actually the mirrors give you a bit of information, which is quite nice, but they are not going to be as amazing as something like a Tora. Mirrors are good considering this is a Super Sport, but again, a lot going on that TFT, which is a lot going on. And you can just accelerate, you really can, and the throttle is so smooth. Love the little details, so even the front forks, that gold Kawasaki anniversary colours on the forks, really nice. The just super beautiful, really is. And you are in that race position, so comfort. You don't buy a ZX-6R Super Sport for comfort, so don't ask about comfort. You're in the race position, your weight is forward, your weight is on the handlebars, and it makes sense as a race, from a race perspective. So comfort is not something you'd ever think about. The seat is fairly well padded and was fairly comfortable, which is good. Good. You can have a pillion on the Super Sport, but being a Super Sport, why would you have a pillion? Doesn't make any sense. You don't buy a race bike for having a pillion on your race bike. You just don't do that. You have a seat cover for that, matching the colours on the Kawasaki ZX-6R Super Sport. Brakes, quite powerful. They're not Brembos, but I gotta tell you, they were sharp. They were, when you needed the brakes, they were on it, and they were fairly powerful. Monoblocks as well, which is again race bike technology. So what it means is that the calipers don't twist under braking, so they stay absolutely dead on. You also have features like anti-lock brakes, which is pretty useful, and knowing you have traction control by your side, really good, and rev counter where you'd expect it to be. Tax and this in Britain at the moment, this would be about £119 to tax. Ouch. And road tax keeps going up every year as well. The engine is Kawasaki 636cc race engine. You have 122 horsepower standard, but you know, with a full system and the remapping the computer, there's more horsepower and torque to be found. A ZX-6R is quite fast. It is a missile on the road, and a missile in the corners, so you feel quite aggressive, but the only letdown is the exhaust system. This is quite a quiet super sport. You notice it, the engine, it's like it's been muted by Kawasaki, not because Kawasaki are bad, they didn't do that intentionally, but they had to meet sound regulations. I mean, you could tell the exhaust system is incredibly quiet, so there is no drama, you don't feel like this race bike has a soul, but a full system and a remap would fix that straight away. Standard key from Kawasaki, so no keyless ignition, but the key slots in really nicely, and as well, opening the fuel tank is really easy. On this model you have Showa big piston forks, which is quite interesting. 41mm. All you need to know is they are very competent. You feel the road, you feel everything that the road is doing. You do feel the bumps though, but then that's what you'd expect from riding a race bike. If you moan about, I feel the bumps on the ZX-6R, what? It's a race bike. She's not there for comfort, to be nice. She's there to give you as much feedback on the road so that you can power on, take your line, and accelerate out the corner like a missile.
I feel the need for speed. Ow!
So the Showa forks are very competent. Love as well the fact that they have that gold superbike coating. Oh, lovely. And good rebound, good compression. There is nothing to complain about, nothing to moan about. This is really high performance race suspension. And then on the rear you have a Unitrack rear shock. Good, it's doing a pretty good job, no complaints. And yeah, a pleasure. Then you have a single caliper on the rear, and that also has anti-lock brakes, so you've got that extra stability. And gearbox, this is a 6-speed unit, but also with a slipper clutch, so you can absolutely just chuck her into either upper gear or down a gear. We were accelerating then, and we were accelerating hard, and she was actually quite quick, the ZX-6R, you know, and we revved her out. Also, this model comes with a Quickshifer. That's really useful. So you just up the shift, and when you hit the red line. So that's really useful from a performance perspective, because you lose that second and a half and having to change up a gear, and when you're opening her up as well with all that torque and power, your hand is pretty much being pinned by the G-forces. To actually change gear upper gear while accelerating on that race bike is really is quite tricky. So having that upshift is really useful, but you don't have clutchless downshifts though. So this Quickshifter is only for upshifts and not downshifts, which is, it'd be nice if it was a downshifter, because it does have a slipper clutch, but Kawasaki must have had a reason why they decided to only offer an upshift. But that upshift is really useful. The gear changes were quite smooth. They were precise. Getting into neutral was fairly easy, and a nice action as well. This is a race bike. You just chuck her into gear, upshift with Quickshifter, and yeah, gearbox is spot on. No complaints. Can't think of anything to be negative or to mind about the gearbox. It is spot on, which is really good. And liquid cooled, which is what you'd expect from a modern race bike now, and pretty refined, and yeah, pretty good. Double overhead cam, so all pretty good really, and fast, crikey, yeah, pretty fast. The balance is spot on. Pretty good, and fuel range, I would expect you to get about 100 miles out of the tank, possibly more, but it's pretty useful that you have a fuel gauge so you know where you are, which is pretty important. The yoke, really pretty. The frame, very pretty to look at, really very pretty indeed. Absolute pleasure to ride, but if you're riding this race bike over an hour, you're gonna start feeling it. Your body's gonna start to ache, your arms gonna start to ache, your back's gonna start to hurt. So yeah, after about an hour you definitely need to take a break on a race bike like this. And yeah, a pleasure to ride. Decent padding for the seats, and brakes are very powerful. You feel very nimble on this Super Sport. You really do. You just feel you can dart up and down, left, right. Lean angle, race bike, really fast. Insurance for Luke rides is probably going to cost over £300 to insure this, but then it is a race bike, so the insurance is going to be more expensive on this than say something like a Ninja 650. I do expect the insurance to be more expensive. Economy, fuel range, don't ask that question. Why would you buy a race bike for fuel economy? That's the way to look at it. Don't ask a stupid question like that. Quality of the paintwork by Kawasaki, really smooth. The lacquer is really smooth. Kawasaki have worked very hard on the paintwork. The paintwork is smooth. The gloss is fantastic. Really good, and just gorgeous to look at from every angle, and the paintwork is spot on. Build quality, Kawasaki engineering, everything feels really well put together. It feels quite well built. Fixings look good, fixings look strong, but being in Britain though, you do not want to put a race bike like this through winter, because what's going to happen is all the salt and corrosion is going to get everywhere, and also being a race bike with those beautiful Kawasaki fairings, the rotor will get all around that race engine, towards the frame, and all the parts of the ZX-6R that you can't get to. So riding this in the winter is going to start corrosion, so don't do it. Wind protection, really good. This is a race bike, so you feel like the air is going over your head. There's very little buffeting. You feel very comfortable on this, and in that you can just cruise 30, 40, 60, 70, comfortably, and not feel like you'll be in batters like you would be on a naked bike. So that's pretty good. And nimble. You feel like you are one of the ZX-6R Super Sport. Although it would have been nice if this one had stickier tyres, because you can just feel it. What is the weight like? This is Kawasaki Super Sport, so the weight is really well balanced. Look how the Christ is just darting the way it is, and you could just have the confidence just to power on, which is awesome. And you're having the Kawasaki traction control helping you out, planting you, which is pretty good. And there's very little buffering. The weight is really comfortable. It's actually quite comfortable for a race bike. So at low speeds, you feel fine. You don't feel worried at all. You feel actually pretty good. So spot on to Kawasaki. You've done really well there. The back end, the Super Sport looks fantastic. Alloy wheels look quite pretty. Love the fact that Kawasaki have done them in green to celebrate Kawasaki. Lovely. And also that beautiful race frame as well. And it's just precision from Kawasaki. And Luke Rides, don't worry, Luke Rides is being biased, because Yamaha with the R7 Super Sport also have their pluses. I love how everything is so well put together in the Kawasaki. Everything feels really well put together, tried and tested, and you just feel like this is going to be a very reliable race bike that's never going to let you down, and it's just Kawasaki quality. Feels really good, and you can just accelerate and just be very comfortable. But again, the negative is the exhaust system. She is quiet, and it's quite sad when you think that we're riding modern race bikes now and they are being absolutely neutered by emission and sound regulations, that they're ultra quiet, which is just so annoying. But what is this like to maneuver at low speeds in, say, a car park? This is a race bike, so if you have the seat cover, which you definitely want to do, because again this is a race bike, you've got to take your time. But the weight it's not heavy. It's actually quite agile and fairly light for a 600cc race bike, so you can move it around fairly comfortably. Just again, don't move with sudden jolts, like sudden movements, because of the way that the handlebars are in the race position. You don't have so much control like you would be on a motorcycle that just has straight handlebars. So take your time, but don't worry, she is not heavy. You feel so nimble on the ZX-6R Super Sport. You're just like, dart in and out. It just feels really good. You feel sporty. You do feel like if this had a full exhaust system and the engine was released, you'd be one overtaking. You really would. But you do feel like the engine is held back. You do feel like there's a torque missing because of modern regulations. But this Kawasaki is not going to let you down. Very reliable, tried and tested. Even the wiring is well insulated. The wiring looks really tidy from Kawasaki, all in the right places, all put to one side, which is very good. And the screen's doing a fairly good job of blocking out as much of the wind as possible for you. But it can only do the best that it can, and the ZX-6R Super Sport makes quite an impression. You definitely look very good on the Kawasaki. So far So far so good. And yeah, it is brilliant. This race engine revs to 13,000, so just under 14,000 RPM. And yeah, you get there pretty quickly, which is quite interesting. But yeah, there isn't a huge amount of changes from the previous year of Kawasaki Super Sport. And yeah, what a motorcycle! What a motorcycle to ride. And chain drive, but that's you have a chain to maintain and look after, which is quite normal on race bikes. Race bikes often use chains. And also with the Ram Air feature on the Kawasaki, you do get a little bit, you can get more horsepower. So what Luke Grimes is getting at is the faster you go, the more horsepower you're making. That's just typical Kawasaki Ram Air, which is pretty good. And yeah, so far so good. What Super Sport. This is a lot of fun to ride. But again, the engine is a little bit held back, definitely needs remapping, definitely needs a full system with no baffle. And yeah, you have switch gear on the left hand side, so you can select which traction control mode you want, and also what power mode that you want on the left. And then pretty much is indicators on the left, and then you've got your switch gear for the dip to main beam. Your starter switch is on the right hand side, and that's pretty much all you need to know. It's a fairly simple switch gear. There's not a massive amount going on. I think you also have, you have your horn, possibly a four-way hazard. But if the only switches you're really going to be using is the toggle on the left. At this point, it was, for some reason, the road was just quite muddy, and you could feel that was quite slippy. You could feel it. You feel like the traction control may have had to step in there. But I believe we are in sport mode. Yeah, we're in sport mode, so the traction control is only gonna, the throttle is only gonna cut if it feels like something bad is about to happen. I'm not sure, anti-lock brakes, not sure if the brakes are also able to step in to correct the ZX-6R Super Sport if it feels like it is losing traction. But yeah, what a Super Sport. You feel quite compact. The seating position, you feel hugged to the fuel tank. You really feel like you're absolutely holding on to it. So really well, Kawasaki done a great job in shaping the fuel tank for your body, because again, this is race bike. You could be hugging this. Your legs are going to be hugging the ZX-6R Super Sport, and yeah, what a pleasure. Really good. So where does this fit in the motorcycling world? This fits in where you're not ready for having a 200 mile an hour exotica super sport super bike like a ZX-6R, but yeah, so far so good. And it's quite a super sport. Yeah, it really is. It is very, very cool. And again, this is about where it's not going to frighten you like a ZX-10R Super Sport super bike. So where does this fit in the motorcycling world? the ZX-6R Super Sport is where you're not quite ready to have a ZX-10R Superbike that is over 200 horsepower and to have all that torque and to be on a Exotica, to be on a supersonic missile. This ZX-6R Super Sport is a lot more forgiving. This is where you can have a more relaxed ride on a race bike at slower speeds, and just shows you what a race bike can do. So you get a very, very fast, very capable race bike before you jump onto a over 200 mile an hour ZX-10R Super Bike. And that's the beauty of the ZX-6R. It is that smaller race bike where you have a beautiful Kawasaki race bike looks, styling and handling before you go to a ZX-10R Super Bike and be frightened and go supersonic everywhere and be riding a full-on warplane, a full-on jet fighter on the road as well as the racetrack. The ZX-6R is comfortable race bike for you to enjoy, to rev out at lower speeds, and is a taster of what Kawasaki can do, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, don't expect this though. If you're looking for comfort, walk away. Why would you be looking at a ZX-6R Super Sport? And if you're looking at doing distance and touring, why the hell would you be looking at a ZX-6R Super Sport? This is not about comfort. This is about being a very fast and being a race bike, super fast, but just before you jump up to a ZX-10R Superbike. And yeah, there is still a place for super sports and super bikes, and you know, the ZX-6R Super Sport is epic super sport to have, really cool, and what fun. Oh, it's raining. God, and rain. Don't you just hate the rain? Thanks for watching. And again, remember, if you are looking for comfort, or you're looking to have some sort of super sport that somehow can miraculously do distance, that you're thinking of putting a bag on, look away. You're being stupid. You're being a retard. You're being really stupid. You don't buy a race bike for distance and comfort. This is about speed, power, torque, handling, beauty. Wow. Stunning. Wow. Love. It's beauty, speed and power and handling. So you will definitely be overtaking other 600s, and you will be out handling them in every turn, but without the frightening supersonic power, torque and speed of a ZX-10R Superbike. So this is good. Kawasaki have done a really good job here. There is very little. The only negative Luke Fries can find is the exhaust system. Apart from that, epic super sport. Alright, let's wrap it up. Thanks for watching, everybody, at Luke Rides. The colour scheme is celebrating 40 years of Kawasaki Super Sports and Superbikes, and even a random stranger came by and just took photos of the ZX-6R. They probably didn't get that it's a Super Sport, but You know, you got a random stranger taking photos. The negatives is the exhaust system was incredibly restrictive. So there is more power, there is more torque to be found in that Super Sport race engine. And yeah, you do have to rev her out, really. But hey, it was good. It was agile, it was nimble, and it was just good to ride. But a lot going on, got a lot happening on the instrument cluster though. On that, when you have only one screen and you've got the rev and the speedo, you've got all that information squeezed into that screen. When you're on the move, not easy to read, to be honest. But Kawasaki did a really good job. Brakes are very strong, very powerful, and the Super Sport suspension is also very, very good, very agile, compliments inspiring, very good.
The little rascal has spirit. Has what?
This is the end of the trail for me.
Thank you.
Thank you, kid.
I feel the need for speed.